Hello, friends. Turning 70 is a milestone, one that feels like both a blessing and a wake-up call. One moment you're in your 20s, full of dreams and boundless energy, and the next, you wake up to a body that's slower, a mind that's reflective, and a heart that prioritizes peace over everything else. Life, with its constant twists and turns, changes you in ways you never anticipate, and for me, one of the most profound shifts has been in how I approach relationships. I used to be a social butterfly, surrounded by friends, family, and colleagues. I thrived on gatherings, celebrations, and being that dependable person everyone could count on. But somewhere along the way, something changed. I started avoiding people. Not out of bitterness or anger, but out of necessity and self-preservation. At first, I thought this was a personal failing, but the more I reflected, the more I realized it's a reality many face as they grow older. It's not about giving up on people, it's about finding a peace that comes from protecting your time, energy, and heart. At this age, time feels more precious than ever. When you're young, time seems infinite, like a river stretching endlessly toward an unknowable horizon. You waste it on idle conversations, relationships that drain more than they give, and pursuits that feel meaningless in hindsight. But at 70, time reveals its true nature, finite, fleeting, and invaluable. I no longer feel the need to fill every hour with activity, or every day with obligations. Instead, I cherish the moments of stillness, like savoring a warm cup of coffee as the morning sun rises or feeling the cool crunch of autumn leaves beneath my feet on a quiet afternoon walk. I've learned that it's not about how much you do or how many people surround you but the quality of those moments and connections. I've become fiercely protective of my time, choosing carefully where and with whom I spend it. It's not an act of selfishness but an acknowledgement of how irreplaceable these moments are. This isn't just my perspective, it's a common sentiment among many of us who've reached this stage of life. We understand that the tomorrows we once took for granted are no longer guaranteed, and that realization shapes how we live today. Relationships, too, have changed in ways I never expected. When I was younger, I believed in the idea of forever friendships, thinking that every relationship I nurtured would last a lifetime. I was the person who remembered birthdays, showed up at every gathering, and went out of my way to keep connections alive. But as the years passed, life had its way of pruning the branches of my social tree. Some relationships faded quietly, others ended with heartbreak, and some simply ran their course. At 70, I've come to accept that not all relationships are meant to last, and that's okay. The people who remain in my life now are the ones who truly matter. Those who've stood by me through life's ups and downs, who've seen me at my best and my worst. I no longer chase connections that feel one-sided or draining. Instead, I focus on the relationships that bring mutual joy and understanding. This shift isn't about closing myself off, it's about being intentional. Life is too short to invest in relationships that don't nurture my spirit or align with my values. This realization hasn't been easy. There are moments of nostalgia, of missing the connections that once felt so vital. But I've learned to appreciate them for what they were, precious chapters in the book of my life, not the whole story. Trust has also become more complicated with age. In my younger years, I trusted easily, believing in the inherent goodness of people. But life, with its inevitable betrayals and disappointments, has taught me caution. I've been hurt by people I never expected, friends who prioritized their own interests over our connection, colleagues who took advantage of my kindness, and even family members who distanced themselves for reasons I may never fully understand. These experiences have left scars but also valuable lessons. I've learned to trust my instincts, to recognize red flags, and to set boundaries that protect my peace. At 70, I'm more selective about whom I let into my inner circle. This doesn't mean I'm bitter or closed off, it means I've learned to value my well-being above the need to please others. Despite these challenges, moments of restored faith remind me that trust isn't impossible. A kind stranger, a thoughtful neighbor, or a heartfelt gesture, these experiences reaffirm that while trust may be fragile, it's also worth nurturing when it feels right. The world itself feels different now, almost unrecognizable compared to the one I grew up in. There was a time when neighbors were like family, when we knew each other by name, shared cups of coffee unannounced, and offered help before it was asked. Today, it feels like everyone is caught up in the race of modern life, chasing success, recognition, or simply keeping up with endless demands. Conversations feel rushed, connections thinner, and the warmth of human interaction often replaced by the cold efficiency of technology. While I'm grateful for tools like video calls and social media that keep me connected to loved ones, they can't replace the irreplaceable, sitting across from someone, hearing their voice, and feeling their presence. It's not just nostalgia speaking, it's a longing for genuine, undistracted human connection, something that seems harder to find in today's noisy, fast-paced world. Through this journey, I've come to appreciate solitude in ways I never did before. Solitude isn't loneliness, it's a fullness, a quiet contentment in my own company. It's in these moments of stillness that I've rediscovered the joy of simple pleasures, the crackle of a fire on a cold evening, the rustle of leaves in the wind, or the soft glow of the moon through my window. These moments fill me with a peace that no crowded room or busy event ever could. Solitude has given me space to reflect, to revisit memories with gratitude, and to make peace with the past. It's taught me that my worth isn't tied to how many people surround me or how busy my social calendar is. Instead, it's in the quiet realization that I'm enough, just as I am. So, why do I avoid people now? It's not out of bitterness or resentment, but out of a desire for peace. After 7 decades of giving, learning, and sometimes hurting, I've come to understand that not every connection is worth the energy it takes to maintain. I've traded the noise of social obligations for the quiet of meaningful solitude, and, in doing so, found a contentment I never knew was possible. I avoid people who bring drama, who make everything about themselves, or who take my kindness for granted. Instead, I focus on the few relationships that truly matter, the friends and family who've stood the test of time. Avoiding people doesn't mean giving up on humanity. It means valuing my own well-being enough to set boundaries. It means cherishing the connections I do have, not because they're numerous but because they're genuine. This chapter of life feels like both an ending and a beginning. At 70, I've stopped chasing what's out there and started appreciating what's right here. I've learned to embrace simplicity, to let go of regrets, and to live authentically. This stage isn't about limitations but possibilities, about creating a life that feels true to who I am now. For me, avoiding people isn't about isolation. It's about prioritizing peace, savoring the present, and finding joy in the quiet moments that make life so beautifully imperfect. If this resonates with you, know that you're not alone. This chapter is ours to shape in whatever way brings us the most peace and fulfillment. Here's to living authentically, unapologetically, and with the quiet strength that comes from truly knowing ourselves.